to develop creative energy. You know, a friend of mine who lives in Germany has told me how when they had their first baby, they got a letter from the government encouraging he and his wife to move from their one-bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom apartment so the baby could have a room of his own. When they had the second child, then they got a letter again encouraging them to move into a three-bedroom house. When they got the third child, they got a letter encouraging them to move into a four-bedroom house. It was a requirement by the government so that each child could have a room. And he said he tried to find out the origin of such a policy, and he discovered that a research had said that if you put two children in the same room, it is possible that one of them may not be fully developed psychologically or intellectually. So he decided that it was in his best interest and the best interest of the children, you know, to obey and to comply with that policy. But when he said that, that got me thinking quite a bit on our intrinsic need for solitude once in a while as human beings, just so that we can touch the depths of our own hearts, and we can also have the opportunity of focusing absolutely on our connection with God. And I think that that is one of the best energy boosters that anybody can to have the time to think, not only to think, but to dream, okay, to have the time to think very deeply. So I want to encourage the viewer, if your life is one that is very busy, filled with a lot of activity, you need to once in a while find the time to be alone, find the time to think, find the room, you know, to be on your own, to read, to listen to audio messages, to watch video messages, you know, to be inspired, so that when you come out to interact with people, people will know you have grown in your thinking. You have grown, you've developed more depth, okay? And see, when we are inspired, when we get inspiration, inspiration gives us access to revelation. So we get insights, we get understanding when we are able to engage in deep thinking. I think that sometimes we are too busy and we need to deliberately carve out time to be alone, just to dream, to think, to review our goals and plans, see how far we have come, and to get fresh ideas on how we can achieve our goals. Now, let me add also that when you assume responsibility for whatever assignments have been given to you, or basically assume responsibility for your life, it makes a world of difference. Responsibility is the ability to respond, or it is choosing to do something about what you can do something about. When you accept that your life is your responsibility, when you accept that reading is your personal responsibility, you know, when you appreciate the fact that most of the things that impact our lives the most are things that we have to do for ourselves, and you don't throw the responsibility for your life on somebody else, and use them then as an excuse for failure, that is an energy booster in itself, because your potentials are released. This is what I mean. I read in the book once that you are not yet a failure until you blame someone else. And that really, really struck me, because I found that it had been easy for me to blame this person, blame that person, and blame that person for my failure. But I got to realize that the most critical things, the things that are most critical to my survival, are things that I do for myself. Nobody breathes for me. I breathe for myself. Nobody can eat on my behalf. I eat for myself. Okay? You can't even go to the toilet on my behalf. I have to go on my own. And these things are critical, to my survival. I went through school. Nobody was permitted to write my examination for me. That would be fraud. I had to write my examinations myself. And that has taught me that the things that impact my life the most, a whole lot of the time, are my responsibility. So when you are in that state of mind where you tell yourself, this is my business and I am going to take it on, that in itself unleashes our potentials. Avoiding or sidestepping responsibility diminishes the release of our potentials. In fact, it frustrates it. The moment we tell ourselves, I can't, our system shuts down, does not even want to receive creative ideas anymore that will help us to be able to do whatever it is. Okay? So there's power in assuming responsibility. The moment, you tell yourself, this is my stuff, this is my ball, I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to run with it, I'm going to do it. Our system as human beings is so designed as to release energy, find creative ideas intuitively, just to help us to do whatever it is that we have determined to do. I describe responsibility to some people this way. I tell them, it is what you have decided to carry that God will help you to carry. In other words, invisible forces, supernatural power comes in when you take the responsibility, to confront a problem or to resolve an issue or to manage a particular sphere or space. Invisible power. Okay, I find an illustration in the scriptures, in the scriptural story of Jesus and the crowd that came to listen to him preach. After 3 days, they were running out of food supplies. And his disciples, the disciples of Christ, said to him, send these people away. Let them go get food for themselves. But Jesus surprised them when he said, no, you get food for them to eat. And of course, they were, surprised. We don't have anything. They didn't want to take responsibility for that crowd. But he did. He said, tell them to sit down, make them to sit down in groups of 50s. And the moment he assumed responsibility for them, the spiritual energy came. One, he knew what to do. Secondly, this invisible power just entered the little resource or the little resources that he had, multiplied it, and the whole crowd was fed. And that's what I mean. That if you are a man, the head of a family, and you assume responsibility for your family, you'll be surprised the ideas and the abilities and the opportunities and the favor that will flow to help you to do what you're supposed to do. If you're a student in school, you choose to take responsibility for your performance in school and for passing your exams. You're not going to blame any lecturer or teacher. You're not going to blame any fellow student. You take it on. You'll find help will come to you. Energy will flow in you to get the job done. So my encouragement there, viewer, assume responsibility. Take it on, okay? And you'll be surprised how Resources that you never thought were there would come out of you. Ideas